The hum of the overhead light filled the room with a maddening stillness. Lucia and Isabela sat huddled on the cold floor, their wrists raw and bleeding from the ropes they had managed to slip free of earlier. Every shallow breath was filled with the stifling scent of sweat and fear. "Search the room," Lucia whispered urgently, her voice low but commanding. Despite the desperation in her tone, her dark eyes burned with resolve. Isabela nodded, her trembling hands brushing her hair out of her face. They began their search, scouring every corner with the frantic precision of caged animals desperate for escape. Lucia inspected the door, running her fingers over the hinges, searching for a flaw. "The frame's solid," she muttered to herself. Her nails dug into the wood, testing its strength. Isabela pulled at the curtains, her movements erratic as she checked behind them. Her hands lingered on the window pane, hoping against hope to find it loose, but it was sealed tight with nails hammered deep into the frame. "Nothing," Isabela whimpered, her voice breaking. Lucia spun to face her, her jaw tightening. "Keep looking," she snapped. Her words were sharp, but her voice was steady, a thin lifeline of determination they both clung to. As they worked, faint voices filtered through the thin door. Both women froze, their eyes met, wide and alert, before they silently moved to press their ears to the wood. "Sell them by tomorrow," a gruff voice said, his tone dripping with indifference. "Big money for this pair." Lucia's stomach dropped, and her blood turned to ice. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. She turned to Isabela, whose tear-filled eyes mirrored the horror she felt. "They're going to sell us," Isabela whispered, her lips trembling. Lucia's mind raced, her fists clenched, her nails digging into her palms as panic threatened to consume her. Then a metallic click rang out, shattering the silence. The lock turned, the door slammed open, and two men stepped into the room. The first, a burly figure with a jagged scar running down his cheek, sneered as his eyes roamed over the women. The second man, shorter but wiry, hung back, his sharp gaze assessing. Scarface stepped forward, a smug grin spreading across his face as he reached for Isabela. And then it happened. Something primal ignited within Lucia, a force she didn't know she possessed. Letting out a feral scream, she threw herself at him, her body a blur of raw fury. The man barely had time to react before her teeth sank into his neck. Lucia bit down with everything she had, her jaw locking as the taste of copper filled her mouth. The man's scream was guttural and wet, cut short as she wrenched her head back, ripping a chunk of flesh free. Blood gushed from the wound in a crimson torrent, spraying her face and shirt. The second man moved to intervene, his hand reaching for her, but Isabela was already on him. Her nails raked across his face with savage precision, leaving deep gouges that ran from his temple to his jaw. "Get off me, bitch," he snarled, swinging wildly. Isabela ducked, her hands scrambling along the floor until they found a jagged shard of glass. Without hesitation, she drove it into his throat, her entire body weight behind the strike. The man's eyes bulged as blood poured from the wound, his hands clawing uselessly at the glass embedded in his neck. Scarface, now clutching his gushing neck, staggered backward. Lucia didn't stop. She tackled him to the floor, her fists pounding against his chest and face in a frenzy of violence. Each punch landed with a sickening crack, her rage giving her strength she didn't know she had. The second man collapsed, gurgling as blood filled his lungs. Isabela stood over him, her chest heaving, her face and hands smeared with his blood. Lucia landed one final blow on Scarface before he fell still beneath her. She knelt there for a moment, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her fists trembling as the realization of what they had done sank in. The room was silent once more, save for the sound of their labored breathing. "We did it," Isabela whispered, her voice faint and disbelieving. Lucia rose, shakily to her feet, wiping her bloodied hands on her pants. "We're free," she said, though the words felt hollow. Their victory was short-lived. Beyond the doorway, the faint glow of light spilled into the room, drawing their attention. They stepped cautiously into the living room. The scene before them was almost surreal. Bundles of cash, neatly stacked, covered the couch. Guns of every size and make lay scattered across the table, alongside mountains of powdery drugs. Lucia's chest tightened as she took it all in. This wasn't just a trap, it was a lair, a place where lives were bought and sold, where power reeked of blood and money. Isabela broke the silence, her voice barely audible. "What now?" Lucia turned to her, her gaze sharp and unyielding. "We take what we need," she said, "and we burn the rest." Isabela hesitated, then nodded, a flicker of determination sparking in her eyes. Together they moved with purpose, their fear giving way to resolve. The road ahead was unknown, but one thing was clear. They had survived the unthinkable. Now they would fight for their future, no matter what it took.